Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is a presentation of OnCon's network of panels. We have an exciting amount of people. Just everyone do me a favor, go to mute, just so we don't pick up anyone's background noise. We're going to cycle through some people. We have a full house. We have up to 8 people possibly here, 7 already checked in, maybe more on the way. So here's the deal. Let me go on real quick live and set the narrative. We're talking about public speaking today. Public speaking is about the ability to say things to a crowd and motivate them, not just talk about what you want to talk about. People make that mistake a lot. Public speaking is not hanging out with your friends and discussing all the things you want. We're going to be talking about things about how public speakers, especially on panels, often drone on, step on each other's toes, and do a horrible job of presenting the actual ideas that they're trying to get across to people. So what we're going to be doing today is a different style because there's so many of us. We're going to be wind up switching between the creators, and I'm going to be calling people to answer. If you see anyone's hands raised while we're doing this, that's simply because I asked them to do that. So if someone has a pertinent point, I do want to bring them on camera. So that's it from me. My name is Mr. Anderson. As a matter of fact, I am the underground indie advocating devil, and I am here to panel. And that is how you start off expressing who you are using strong narratives. That's part of speaking. Letting people know who you are, introducing yourself. So no pressure. Next person up is Chuck.
What's up, everybody? I'm Chuck Pino. I'm a writer, editor, comic book reviewer, and absolute lover of indie comics.
How you doing, folks? Henry Kompan here. I'm the writer, creator, producer of Yisun Shin. Find me at www.yisunshin.com.
Hi, I'm Brian K. Morris, independent publisher, award-winning playwright, indie hybrid author, and former mortician's assistant. I can be found at Rising Tide Publications on Facebook.
Hi, my name is Luke Stone. I am the writer, artist behind a book called Hybrids, the Sons of God. You can find me at
Hi, what's up? I'm Mike Watson, the publisher of Short Fuse Media Group, founder of Freestyle Comics, and the most enthusiastic person in comics.
Ted, did you freeze? Can you see you're up? Obviously, we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. Ted, you're muted. I don't think they can hear you.
Your mic's muted, buddy.
Let me see if I can unmute you. Try now.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Ted Davies. I'm author of Retrieve and Albino Zulu. I'm also the artist on that team. Check me out on Ted Davies Artistry.
All right, we're going to try to bring Luke in again to see if we fix that mic issue. Hold on.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
You're good, buddy.
All right, we're good to go. Hi, my name is Luke Stone. I am the author and writer. That's the same thing. I messed up. The author and artist behind Hybrids, the Sons of God. You can find me on the interwebs at lukestonestudios.com.
There we go. There we go. Some technical stuff going on today. Obviously, we're having some technical issues with certain things. Luke, you do have a little bit of feedback still in it. I don't know if you maybe want to leave and come back in. Or is that someone else? I can't tell right now. I hear it. I just don't know where it's coming from. All right. It's gone now. So I don't hear it. So it must be gone. I muted everyone. So everyone's on mute, just so you know. We're going to move on because this happens in public speaking. You have problems. So we're going to continue to persevere and bring up our first topic, and I'll bring everyone up one at a time to actually answer these questions. I have them pre-made today, but we will be taking questions at our overtime show later. So if you have a question, please add them. So not knowing when to stop talking is a big issue. A lot of people have complained about when they go to see panels. Kevin Smith is famous for this, answering only 2 questions in a 90-minute panel. However, somehow Kevin Smith is adored for it. Most people are hated for it. So we're going to go around the room and talk about how to know when to stop talking and how to answer a question appropriately according to and starting with Chuck.
Well, I think the big difference between what we're doing and what Kevin is doing is that's his show. So he can choose to only do 2 questions, and that's fine. But for us, we have to get through it quick. So really, it's about getting your point out there and then making sure that everyone else can add to it too, because you don't want to be the only one talking, because not only are we teaching people on these panels, but we're learning.
That's an excellent point, Chuck. Another thing I want to say too is that it's really important to look at this like you would comics. You want to keep it concise and to the point. So, you know, the less you say, the more you get across, kind of a thing.
Says I'm muted. I think that you're also going to learn as much from your audience as you do from the speaker. So sometimes you need to listen to your audience while you're telling them everything you know.
I agree with everything that's been said so far. Excellent points, gents. Another thing is that when I do a panel, particularly if I'm moderating it, I want the audience involved. And so the sooner I get through my point, just giving enough that maybe somebody will want to ask questions about it, then I like throwing it out to the audience as soon as possible and making it more of a conversation than a monologue.
I absolutely disagree with everything everyone's saying. These guys are all trash. Talk as long as you want. No, I'm just playing. One of my things is I do agree with everybody saying they're all saying some really smart things. But my add-in is gauge the crowd. Judge the crowd on the length of what you're saying and whatnot. Their participation is very important into it. Their attitude, their atmosphere. You got to keep that in notion when you if you get caught up in something, look at that crowd and see how they're feeling. Like, oh, they're bored. I'm talking too long. Let me move on. Wrap it up.
Yeah, I totally agree with what these guys are saying. The point of a panel is to communicate an idea. And the idea about communication is use as many or as few words as possible. There's no reason using 10 words if 5 words will get the point across.
And the other question we have is trying too hard to be funny, trying to land jokes, trying to always make jokes, and how that can affect an audience. Because some people just try to make these jokes desperately. I don't even know why. I won't try to infer why, but they do. And I see them not land the jokes. And it's awkward even when I'm on as the moderator to hear someone drone on trying to make a joke work. And you want to take the horse outside and shoot it. So we're gonna start with Chuck. And Chuck, what do you think about that?
I'm glad you started with me on jokes. You know what, guys? In comedy, timing is everything. And sometimes that joke just is not supposed to happen. If it doesn't land, move on.
The thing about being funny is you have to understand that not everybody is going to find you funny, even though what you're saying is funny to you. So the best thing to do is, if you're going to make any kind of joke, to find something that is kind of that can get a universal laugh out of somebody. And there are jokes like that out there. You just kind of have to understand that it's not something that you can just exclude people on.
You need to know your audience. Know everybody in that audience as best you can before you start saying some off-color jokes, or just know your audience.
Comedy is a very tricky thing when talking and speaking with people. I recommend doing what you feel comfortable in. I've never been good at telling jokes. I kind of just live in that moment or whatever when I attempt to make people laugh. And normally when it works for me is when I'm relating to people about things that they know and understand.
And I hear what you were saying, Rob, and I resent it because I'm still in this room, okay? Wait till I leave. No, I find that humor is very effective in breaking the ice between basically a room full of strangers and yourself who may not know who you are really. So I try to use one target that I know always works, and that's myself. I don't mind taking pot shots at myself to relax the audience. But generally, I try to keep things as PG as possible and keep the comedy, if any, flowing naturally. And again, reading the room is an excellent way to do it, because sometimes you'll wind up with an audience that just wants facts and isn't there for a stand-up routine.
Yeah, I think funny is not as important as being.
Luke, same thing with your mic. I don't understand it. I'm not. I wish I could help, but maybe we'll try again in a minute, because it's real bad. I couldn't even understand a word you were saying. Sorry, dude.
He was just playing a bad joke.
All right, so we're gonna bring back. Okay, so now this is not actually on purpose, but it just happened to be our next thing, and we're gonna let Ted answer this first, because Ted had mentioned the audience and knowing it. I go to cons where I don't know my audience. I don't know who's about to show up, and I'm a very public figure who gets my stuff shared out. I don't get to know who's going to be showing up. So with that in mind, and I'll let Ted start this because he said you have to know your audience. How do you write material for the general public? Because being a speaker means you're going to be meeting the general public. You don't get to pick who's going to show up. And sometimes things can come back to haunt you. We recently had an issue where someone said something on a show and it was picked up very quickly as an issue. And we had to address it in a special video that wound up becoming another special video. So how do you all prepare for general speaking? And we'll start with Ted, because Ted had said know the audience. So I'm curious how he prepares for when he doesn't know the audience.
Well, I think impromptu is always something that you're going to be doing. I know over the years I dealt with public speaking for almost 30 years, and it's you're right, you don't know what's going to happen, but you try to, like we were saying about comedy, poking fun at yourself is great, just feel for the room, but impromptu is an art like anything, and you have to go off of what you feel that room is
Sorry about that. Jax is back.
That's all right. That's great.
All right. So we're going to move on to Brian, because I see Brian's mic is active.
Well, it's one thing I do. It's called cheating. While I am fairly reasonably good at improvising on the fly, what I do when I start some panels is I start talking to the audience already before I make any sort of presentation. I just start, making comments to the audience, see who responds, and then trying to gauge the involvement level, the humor tolerance of the audience. And it's a real quick cheat in order to get that done quickly before you actually launch into the meat of your program.
We'll wait for you, Watson. That's okay.
I'm sorry. So talking to a crowd that you have no idea who's going to be there, I kind of do that, and I think we all do. Every time we go to a comic book convention, I specifically seek out people that I have not talked to because I want to break the ice with them. So I do my hype line act. I go outside while they're waiting to get into the show. It's about 45 minutes to an hour before they can get in, and I start talking to people. I freestyle to get them comfortable with me. I crack little jokes, and as Brian said, I make fun of myself at the same time to put us on the same level. I offer free items for coming back to my table to see me, so I can continue the conversation there. So I do a couple of different things when speaking to a new crowd, but I think the most important thing that you have to have and know within yourself is just to be fearless and not really care. Just go up there and start talking, whether you have something prepared or whether you go up there and freestyle. You have to be absolutely comfortable in yourself.
I really liked Brian's point an awful lot. Know your audience, but also play to your audience. So if you see certain people really reacting to what you're doing, play towards them. Oh my goodness, I just lost myself. But yeah, playing to the people who are responding are a really big part of knowing your audience. Also, keep your information general. If you're not going off into crazy things that other people might not know about, that tends to help.
Hello. What am I supposed to be talking about? I was been out.
All right, I wanted to make sure it worked. You're back. Okay, so we're talking about what do you do, and if you wanted to finish answering your other question, that's perfectly fine too. On top of this, if you remember, but we're now talking about because we're talking about the audience you don't know. When we do these panels, we don't know who's showing up. How do you prepare material for that? And you've seen actually a funny thing when I was live at one of your panels and I slipped out saying something and the reaction it instantly got.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. So I think what I found is that in most cases, you're probably not going to know all the people that you're talking to. Keep things fairly general, but try to find something that you can connect with someone. Keep an eye on their faces. I've heard say know your audience quite a bit. And this kind of also goes with the whole being funny. Communicating an idea is way more important than actually being funny, and making sure people feel welcome and kind of breaking down those walls, making it more conversational and comfortable. And so I think that in that situation, I understand that there's going to be times when I know more about something than the people I'm talking to, but they may also know as much, if not more than I do about something else that I'm talking about. So, kind of coming at it with that kind of I guess a real casual approach to it, I think is the best way, especially when you don't know who all is in the room and what they know and what they don't know. And don't assume that they're all idiots and you're a genius, because that may not be the case.
That's actually a perfect segue for me. The question now becomes the people who are answering because they're on a panel and they don't have the answer, and they're spending the entire time spinning their wheels trying to think of the answer. Or you've seen it, I'm sure, live on videos. Brian has actually mentioned this on a show today. The people are just so uncomfortable with what they're doing right now, public speaking, that they don't realize they're just dialoguing instead of speaking. Can you guys talk a little bit about knowing when, again, not to speak on things you don't understand? We'll start this time in order with Chuck, and I'm going to remove myself from the room so we can bring Ted in. So, Chuck, take it away.
Yeah, for sure. Really, if you don't have a good answer, like just a moment ago, I blanked for a second. So instead, I went back to what I had previously talked about so I could either finish that or move on. Just, talk about what you know. And if you don't, move it on to somebody else. It really is that easy. So at this point, I'd be like, that's about all I know about that. But Brian K. Morris, what do you know about this topic? Yes, you. Take it off mute.
Get unmuted. Because I know a lot. No, I got nothing to add. No, seriously, what I do if I'm on a panel, of course, if I'm moderating, I have to say something. But if I'm on the panel as one of the experts there, then I know enough to shut up and not embarrass myself. I don't feel the need to contribute all the time. My ego is secure enough, and I'm not afraid to tell people that's not really my area of expertise, which is kind of code for I'm a complete moron in that particular area. So, I don't mind stepping back and letting someone else be the expert, because I will eventually get a question, I'm sure, where I can make myself shine and be able to impart something to the audience that I feel they need to know. Take it, Ted.
I haven't been able to hear anything. There's no sound coming at all through the speakers.
All right, checking. Everyone can hear, right? If you can hear,
I got you. Yeah.
I can hear you. I can hear you. We're good.
Ted, you can't hear? Can you hear? Okay, he can hear. Okay, we're going to try
Ted.
this.
Ted?
Take it away, Ted.
All right. I don't think you can hear us, Ted. Do me a favor, try to sign back out and sign back in. that usually fixes the issue. I'm sorry about that. We're going to move on then to, I guess, Watson.
So, in regards to the question, there's been a couple times where I've listened to people go on and not answer the question, and I try my best to redirect it to the question and not sound like a jerk when I'm doing it. Like I might say, like, and I'd like to just add on top of that when try to find my own segue. But I am also a big fan of what a lot of these guys are saying here too. When I don't know something or I'm not very well knowledgeable in it, I will bow out quickly. I'll say my little piece, but like, hey, but that's probably all I can add in because I'm not very familiar with that territory. So, and I love the one where you pass the buck to somebody else. Like, what do you think about that one? I'm taking that. I'm definitely doing that one.
So my whole thing about public speaking is when you are presenting yourself, talk to people, not down to them, and certainly not up or sideways to them. Talk to them. And when you are communicating with people and using that kind of tone that gets them to feel like they can relate to you, then it takes everything you're saying to a whole new level.
Yeah, so I kind of agree with that, with what everyone's saying. I mean, talk to what you know. If you don't know.
Sorry, again, Luke, I don't understand it. We're going to go back to this screen. Again, we're hearing that static. You have to have a wire that's crossed somehow. Check your connections. Make sure everything's fully seated right. Maybe that's it. Ted, can you hear us? Let's see if we can get Ted back. Ted, can you hear us? Okay, can you talk? Because I can't unmute you because you're muted on your end. You have to unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't hear any of the questions, so I'm at a loss.
So you can hear me, but no one else. You can hear me right now?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Okay.
I couldn't hear anybody. So.
Okay. I guess for this, the only what we're talking about is someone who's trying to answer a question who can't answer a question. Someone who's trying to waste time and just seem like they understand what they're talking about, but really don't understand it. What's your opinions on that?
We're seeing it, without getting too political, we're seeing it right now, every night. Anybody who's watching TV right now can see that. But as far as you need to, there's got to be some way to read your audience. You have to, whether you talk to panels beforehand or whether or the people beforehand, or that you become more comfortable on stage. You need to address the question. Absolutely. There's no skirting around it. If you don't know it, like you're saying, bow out. Say, hey, I don't know. But don't be one that just tries to regurgitate something that never works.
All right, guys, we're going to move on to the next question, and we're hopefully going to get Luke back with us. I'm going to go ahead and mute you, Ted, so I'll unmute you when we're not at the time for you to speak. Stage fright. Let's talk about that. A lot of public speakers, especially now where we're seeing a lot of people suddenly go to do live videos more than ever. They're coming on the camera and they don't look like they know what's going on. They're looking terrified. They're like, well, when I was 5. How do you guys personally suggest getting used to talking to large crowds? And how do you not, get intimidated by it and get over it quickly and just be you and not worried about falling flat on your face? We'll start this way around in order again. We'll start with Chuck.
So my background is very much in acting, improv, all that kind of stuff. That's a lot of where I started. So one of our tricks is focus on one person. Find one person in the audience that you feel like you can kind of connect to and just focus on them. Obviously, it would be easier if you were talking to everybody, but at the end of the day, the most important thing is the message. So in order to get it, that's one of my tricks. Just find one person you can be comfortable with, whether you know them or not. Speak to them, get that out.
And we're going to go ahead with Brian K. Morris. I'm going to unmute you so you can speak. Go ahead.
Yeah, Chuck made an excellent point. I have a background in community theater and acting, and that helped quite a bit. But before that, of all things, I used to be one of the people that you hate on PBS that's whining for money. And I got a horrible case of stage onto the set. And then I realized I just, like Chuck said, talk to one person. And so I introduced myself to the camera person who would cover me. And so I wasn't talking to 5,000 or more people out in the general ether. I was talking to the person on the other side of that camera. And I do this something similar now when I do public speaking, say at a convention. I will focus on one person, but then I will move my gaze to take in other individuals. For one, then I'm just talking to that person. That's for me. And it also engages the people I'm looking at, that I can make eye contact with, because then they know I'm not speaking to only one person. I'm speaking to one person, at a time.
And Mike Watson, how did you get over being shy, or were you honestly ever shy? I think you were the guy in kindergarten already yelling at people to do things.
Honestly, yeah, I was shy. And for me, it didn't change until I moved down to Columbus for college. Once I got away from my family, from my circles of friends and things like that, from I guess what was normal for me, and I was forced to be on my own and interact with my own actions, that's when I got over it. I kind of just stopped caring about what other people thought about me, as long as I was the person that I wanted to be, which was dressing up in Halloween costumes, making comic books, and playing with toys. And when I saw that people started to accept me for that, that's when I was just like, oh, well, this is nothing. And I understand everybody doesn't have that experience or whatnot. So just for me, going into it, like if I have an opportunity to speak to somebody, I just think in my head, well, actually, just recently I was nervous. I had to interview Bubba Ray from WWE, and and I was not used to that at all. Like that was my first time interviewing a celebrity for an actual comic book convention. So I just tried to actually talk to him a little bit beforehand, did my research or whatnot. And I just went out there and tried my best. And once I saw that the crowd was cool with it, it also helped that I had him there with me, and he was making it easier for me or whatnot. But sometimes it's just like, I hate to say it and sound harsh, but it's live or die by the sword. And you're never going to improve or get over it until you actually do it. So, yeah, you might have to fall on your face before you can walk. So, yeah.
We're going to try this, Luke. Luke's got us a new mic. Let's see, Mike. Let's see.
All right, I got a lot of microphones, so
There
one
we
of
go.
them has got to work, right?
I think you're good. Do you know the question? Were you listening?
I was trying to. I was changing the mics. I remember the last question about whether or not to speak at a panel if you know or don't know something. So has the question moved on from that?
Yeah, we're now talking about getting over stage fright. So for me, as an example, when I was coming up, I did actually stand-up comedy, and I was terrified by it. And I had been a manager. I had been a smartass. I'd been a class clown at points. So I was never really too intimidated until I did that. And that terrified me. It sent me into panic attacks. And after that, I never had them anymore because that was the worst it was ever going to be.
Yeah,
and after that, I was okay. How about you?
Yeah, I did not like to public speak when I was a kid. In fact, I was at a school where we had a public speaking class, and so I actually had to do public speaking. And I'm actually kind of an introvert, but most people don't know that, because when I spend time with folks, I tend to be more extroverted in my communication, but I'm very, very introverted. And so in this class, I actually had to go and stand up in front of people and recite and it was a Christian school. So I had to recite Bible verses, which are not very fun to do at all. And so what I started doing was using my hands and body language to try to communicate to get the class to laugh. And when I realized that I took the seriousness out of it and started to communicate in a fun and kind of personal level, it made it a lot easier for me to do that. And so you wouldn't realize it, but now I do a lot of public speaking. That's literally my job. So.
It would help if I unmuted myself. Ted, can you hear me? Have you heard anything?
Yep.
Okay, so how do you get over stage fright?
Well, I've got to say, you've got to pinpoint a person in the audience and try to talk to them, and I just get through it that way. I really, again, back to yourself. If you can point out some of the shortcomings you have, maybe get people to laugh at you a little bit, kind of like Brian said. I think that softens the blow a little bit, but you'll get through it. Keep breathing. Breathing's always good.
All right, we're gonna have our good friend Henri. Go for it. Can you? You're muted on your end, I think.
Yeah, no, I got it. Ted, I like everything you said. I like everything Mike said. I like everything Chuck said. Breathing. It's important to know how to breathe. In through the nose, out through the mouth, and you want to count. The reason why breathing is so important is because when you do it for long enough, it releases endorphins and it relaxes you. And it actually kind of like slows down your heartbeat. That's a very important way to kind of like come over the whole idea of stage fright. It's not going to work if you don't do it right. And also making eye contact with people and, talking to one person directly or maybe a couple people. And, I'm going to go back to something Brian said in the beginning. Never be afraid to make a joke at your own expense, because that's one of those universal jokes that everybody will find funny, depending on how badly you make fun of yourself. If you kind of keep it lighthearted and say, well, I'm such a dummy that I forgot to tie my shoes. Well, you're laughing at yourself, but everybody can relate to it because everybody at some point in their life has, forgotten to tie their shoes. And those are the kinds of things that you want to do. Once you put yourself on people's level, then it's much easier to stay there and, keep things going. And it's important to be relaxed and also to just not be afraid. I mean, like going on what Mike was saying, there's nothing to fear, just go out there and be you.
Now, Chuck, you wanted to add something. I saw you having your hand up. I think you're muted.
Yeah, I did remember something at the last second. This being able to go live is really good, but once you've done it, go back and watch your own show, and you can pick out those little things that you did right or wrong, and either emphasize them or de-emphasize them. So this is kind of a really good practice for you.
Chuck, it'd be great if you didn't jump ahead. That was going to be the next question. So now you don't get to speak on the next question because you've already spoken on it. So let me set it up. Thanks, Chuck. So the next question was, and we're going to get to everyone, Mike. This is actually the question. Seriously, I noticed something about someone, and I won't go into it, but they didn't realize how they had come across when they were live. So I asked them flat out, "Do you ever go back and watch what you're actually doing?" Because I've ran a radio program, so I had to edit radio programs. I've always listened to myself. I've always had to hear the feedback of who I was. And it taught me a lot about how I speak, how stupid I could sound at points if I didn't watch what I was doing. One of the worst things I hate is laughing on air because my laugh comes off funny in a bad way because I'm trying not to laugh and giggle because I'm watching myself and you get in your headspace and you're like, I look ugly when I laugh. So I had to get over those types of things because I sounded like, and Watson can answer this. We're going to go ahead next. What was the dog from the race with all the cartoon characters? They always raced. It was like the Hanna-Barbera race. They had that little dog that always laughed funny. I know Mike Watson knows the name of that one. Mike, don't fail me. Don't fail me. What was the name of that dog? Muttley. Muttley. I sounded like Muttley. So I had to actually stop and just laugh and not be afraid. It's who I am, so I have to accept it. But I had to listen to what I was saying. Mike, you had your hand up, so go for it.
I'm so glad I didn't get to disappoint you. Glad you figured that out. I just wanted to say one quick thing about this nervousness. Also taking it for granted the parameters of what you're speaking on or how you're speaking, because Rob gave us the parameters of this talk because we have so many people on here, and me trying to cut my statements down and make sure I talk just enough to give everybody else time to talk. I messed up what I said, I misrepresented who I was talking about. I was talking about Devon Dudley. I said his name completely wrong because I was trying to make sure I didn't talk too much. And, trying to manage so many things at once in your head, sometimes it does help to write things down so you can go back and catch yourself. And if I would have wrote that down, I would not have messed up this professional wrestler's name. So my apologies.
Yeah, I never go live without a pad. I write everything down. and I source out things before I speak. So, because again, this is from going back in the past. Have you listened to yourself, Mike? Have you gone back to watch the videos and go, okay, there was a moment I should have shut my mouth. I got to learn that in the future.
Yep.
Make myself time, build a window. Have you done that?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Anything more to add? Have you anything to add? Because I saw Ted have his hand up, so I'll move to Ted if you're good.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good. Go ahead.
All right, Ted, you're unmuted. Go for it.
So in that too, you've got the tone of the way that you sound as well, and that's something that when you play it back, I know that sometimes I might deliver something like nice thing I'm trying to say to my wife, and it comes off completely not the right way that I wanted to. So, and that could be that would be nice to have a playback on that regard. So being live and definitely going back and seeing what you've done and the way that you deliver it is always good to learn from.
All right, so everyone keeps taking my future comments. Tone was the thing we're going to talk about in a minute, so we will get back to that. Actually, we'll circle back. Very good point, Luke. Not Luke, Ted. We are going to go to Luke though, and Luke, are you muted or did I? There you go.
I myself there.
No,
Can you hear me now?
No.
Not at all.
Well, we can hear you. You sound horrible, like very staticky.
I do.
Yeah, it's actually bad for Mike Watson. I can see him literally trembling every time you talk in pain. Luke, we're going to have to just talk to you another time.
All right, man.
I'll come back on in like an hour and we'll work out this tech issue.
All right, man. All right.
Sorry, dude. All right, we're going to remove him from stream, bring back in Chuck, and now no more rotating around. I don't know. I feel bad for Luke. He's a great speaker. He's having tech issues. I don't know what that's about, but we're going to go to Henri then. Henri, go for it.
Make sure your tech is set up properly. Because sorry, I didn't get that in. All right. Well, anyway, what was the question again? I completely forgot.
Well, Chuck had brought up the point that you have to. I just drew a blank because you asked me. Chuck,
It was about learning from yourself and your foibles while watching your own live videos, stuff like that. Yeah. So are there any other
here's another technique. Learn from the foibles of others. When someone forgets their technology, make sure yours is all the check. No, I'm sorry. I'm having too much fun at other people's expense. And I've been on Rob's show before and have gotten kicked off. I've been driving while being on a panel with them, and yeah, it's been, you know, anything can happen. And I think the most important thing is adaptability, and you know, it's rolling with the punches, really, you know, because you're not always going to look the smartest. You know, I used to hate doing panels because I was always trying to think about how I could top the next person or the person who came before me. Like, what more could I add? How could I stand out and be the best? Well, I think it's better to say less, because then you kind of have time to collect yourself and make funny jokes like I did. And that was a universal funny joke.
All right. We're going to move on to Brian K. Morris, who's abnormally quiet about this.
Well, it's because my mic was muted. Usually, you know, when he talked about the person, you know, we got the prep talk about over talking others, you know. But
in all fairness, just as a heads up, guys, we're at 6 people now. I don't have to rotate in and out. It'll be a little easier to talk now.
Okay.
So you don't have to stay on mute except for Ted. Ted, we're getting background from you, but it's okay. It's manageable. But the rest of you can come off mute. Just be respectful of space. Go ahead, Brian.
I don't feel like it now. Anyway, no. I don't really have a whole lot. I don't go back to my earlier advice. I don't really have a whole lot except that I did recently go back and look at the first 2, never mind the furthermores, that I ever did. How I lasted this long doing this, I will never know. I was like the ultimate bad example. It looked like I was broadcasting in a crypt. It sounded like it. Everyone was having like a glorious view of my nasal cavities because I had like my camera literally on the table. So it is good to review what you do and, you know, change up what you can. I still have a few things that I need to work on even after 4 years. But after a certain point, I figure If I can't get rid of them by now, we're just going to have to keep them, and the audience will just have to deal with it. Fortunately, they do, and with the abnormal grace, too.
Okay. I think that Jack's in the background. I think everyone's here now. What Jack's interrupting right now is the perfect time. Our next question was rolling with the punches as he hits me. How do you guys learn when you're live and you're public speaking on a panel and you're either live on a video and your kid decides to beat you up? How did you learn to kind of handle that as professionally as possible? Were there any tips you can give to other people? And because we're back to 6, you guys can just jump in naturally as you want. Arnett, go for it. Or
First,
Henri, here we go.
no worries. Don't worry about it. First, ground your kid. Make sure they know who's in charge. You got to really rein them in.
He's in charge. I know who's.
Well, I think that's an interesting, thought. Like, we all do. We've all been in these situations where we're pitching someone at a convention and they got their kids, and while we're talking to them, the kid's like nagging them by the hand and being like, "Dad, I want that thing over there," and you're like, you need to respond to the kid just as the parent does. And in fact, doing so actually shows that you're not just trying to get what you want, which is the sale or get your word in or whatever the case is, but that you actually hear people. And when you acknowledge other people, that's a huge thing. Benadryl, yes, that shit works all the time. I take it all the time. Oh, you're saying to give it to kids? Oh, I take it all the time, man. I like just using at the convention scene, just sleeping in front of my table. It's beautiful.
Yeah, everyone sees you sleeping in front of your table, Henri.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they sure do. Watson, what do you think, dude?
I have a co-star, and I married her.
What was it? What was that?
I have a co-star on my show, and I married her.
Is that better, guys? Is that
Yeah.
the mic working better?
That's a little better.
I hear much better.
I got the radio on in the other room, so the dog doesn't bark, and I think that he must be chewing on the wires or something. I don't know. Whatever.
All right, gentlemen. Fair enough. Let's rein it in, though. Let's distractions. How do we handle them?
And
Rein them in.
I try as best as I can prior to me going on live to let my kids know and my wife know that I'm going to be on live, so you guys can keep it down or not. But kids are kids, man.
Mhm.
And if it's not something that is terribly too distracting, I just roll with it and ignore it.
Sure.
But if it's something that needs my attention, I just say, "Hold on," and I turn and I say, "What do you need? What you see? I'm on. What's up? What's up? Okay. All right, get up. All right, bye. All right, everybody, back to the show." So, just a quick little.
Those distractions, it's very much like parenting, where sometimes you have to take a soft approach and sometimes you have to take a hard approach, and it really depends on the situation. So sometimes you just have to be like, okay, I have to deal with you now because you've made it impossible not to. And then other times it's like they're being a little annoying, but we can talk over that. Like we can still, or we can play with it, but it really is feeling out that situation.
Yeah, I've ran after Jax in a panel and kept the panel going. I can't tell you how many people came up and shook my hand and were like, "That was amazing. You didn't miss a beat. You were grabbing him, stopping him from running out of it." People are more impressed when you can juggle things than opposed to having a perfect scenario. So don't get stressed. And I've seen panel people get stressed because someone made a sound in the room and it killed the vibe. That was it. Like him coughing, just
Forget it.
Like, grow up. This is real life. Especially in indie comics and independent and underground comics, we don't have a crew behind us. We don't have a big monster of a business to come solve our problems. So sometimes it just takes things. And Brian K. Morris deals with some good distractions by Cookie, and he puts them to be part of his show. I've never seen him get annoyed. He always enjoys it. He likes it. He plays along with the joke. I think sometimes a little too much. And you know what joke I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah. Well, I incorporate her into the show because, Henri has met her in person. So it's like, what am I going to do?
I've had the pleasure of buying her and you dinner.
That's
Very
true.
good.
I still owe you dinner, man.
No, Ted Sikora owes me dinner. Just
yeah, she becomes an integral part of the show, as in she becomes the host. That's how she rolls.
Dinner rolls. Huh?
Dinner rolls.
Hey.
So now we're going to talk about a setup. So when you're doing public speaking at a panel or you're doing it live on a video, how you set the room up matters. Where you put your guests on the panel matters. Whether you're bringing things to show off at a panel matters. And I'm going to give you all some free advice that I figured out the hard way. When we do panels, part of it's we want to be able to sell our wares. Let's be honest. We want people to come to our table and we want them to be our fans. We're trying to court them while we're giving free information. So I used to hand out these panel sheets full of information at my panels. And what I learned to do, and I've told Chuck this secret, is tell them to come to your table to get the handout. Make them come to your table. Don't give things away for free. I don't give free comics at panels because let's be honest, you're giving up your time for them. Make them give up some time for you so you can trade. And if they're not a fan, pat them on the back, send them on their way. But if they are a fan, you've made a fan. And this is, and I stress this enough. Everyone wants to throw around the idea that this is a community. This is not a community. This is an industry. We create communities around us, but ultimately this is a business. So what do you guys think? Go for it.
Well, if you don't mind, I'll jump on that one. I just recently started invoking getting people to come back to my tables from panels and things like that. I am a fan of bribery, so I always keep an extra set of tickets with me to draw them back. My free item, I do bribe them with a free item. I, of course, try to swoon them. I court them. I try to get them to really enjoy me and like me and fall in love with me to where they would want to just come, to come. But for some of those people that just want a free grab, I speak up an exclusive item that I've made for the show, and it's a trading card that literally cost me 1/8 of a cent to print that one card and cost me nothing to give that away for free. But it gives me the opportunity to bring the people that are like, oh shoot, Mike Watson's really cool. Let me go see what he has. And then I also get that person like, well, I want a free item, let me go down here and get a free thing. All that to bolster how my table looks when I have a crowd of people there and I'm standing on top of my table or my chair talking to this crowd of people, trying to entice more people to come over, because I'm not really talking to those people anymore that are at my table now. I'm talking to the person next to them. I'm talking through them to get more people to come over and say, hey, what the hell is going on over here? Mm-hmm. So those are my little tricks and gimmicks of trying to get people to come back. I do try to make them laugh, tell jokes. I'm real big on my presentation. I just broke into the iPad field a couple years ago, and I'm like really getting comfortable with it now. So now I've added that into my whenever a show has a projector, I've added that to my presentation, how I present things. I try to get there about 5 minutes early, and I say, hey guys, what's up? Before the show starts, I want to do some shameless promotion. Here's a trailer for my comic book. Check it out. And then I jump into the panel. So just little things like that.
But how do you set up for even going live here too? Just as a thing, the backdrops. What do you guys think when you're setting up the backdrops too? Mike, since you didn't answer that, let's start there too.
I'm sorry. I want to start doing I want to get a banner. I have not got one yet. I usually have my big print wall behind me or whatnot, but I do want to get one thin banner that represents me. I can't decide what I want to put on it. I know I got an idea from Brian though, that I'm looking into or whatnot, but because I have all these toys and stuff set up in my room, so I try to get in front of any one of those, just to push the whole, like, I'm not just a comic creator, I'm a geek, I'm a fan, I love this, and that's how much I'm into it, that like I do all this stuff and I still make my own comic book. But Rob did pressure me subtly without him knowing when I got on the first con, and he had that whole garage set up, and I was like, what the hell is that? This dude set up a whole setup, and I ran and got a table real quick and my back cloth and my tablecloth and my comics, and I set up behind me. I was like, it don't look as good as Rob's, but it'll do for today. So
it'll suffice. Yeah.
I wanted to say something because I recently redid my table, and I think that there's a lot of thought that goes into that. Everything that you are doing when it comes to public speaking also applies to public appearance, and how you dress, what you have behind you, what you have on your table, how it's set up, how it looks. All these things are extremely important, and it all needs to feel right to you. So, Mike, I totally understand what you're going through when it's like, I don't know what to do, because you know, sometimes you're also laid across with new problems too. Like in December, and I haven't put this theory to test yet, but basically in December, United said that you can no longer check in
Right.
certain items that are oversized. And
Right.
I travel to shows, and I use my backdrop, my roll up displays. I check those in.
Mhm.
And sure enough, what ended up happening was I didn't go on any trips yet. But if I would have had to, then I would have had to come up with a completely different solution for what I would have as a backdrop, because you can't not have anything. And
Right.
you have to constantly be on your feet. You have to be very resourceful with this.
And that's what Mike's
Right.
talking about. This is for GarageCon. I set this up. And again, like I said, and we even talked about the fact that I'm in a tank top here is because it's hot in a garage in Florida, even in March when we did this. So do you guys, your presentation is part of this, and of course we're going to continue this, but since Henri threw it out there, do you guys wear your own merch? Do you wear shirts that advertise you, or do you just wear silly fezzes? Brian K. Morris, what do you think?
I don't wear silly things. It seems grim, you know what I'm saying? Well, no, I don't have merch to speak of yet. But what I do is one thing I do when I'm on panels and such, I always try to sneak in a plug whenever possible, even for my paid Rising Tide publications or risingtide.pub. Just try to work it in naturally into the conversation so it doesn't
Yep.
sound rehearsed, even though you spent like hours trying to work it in. But yeah, you made a good point about Henri did about having to think on the fly about your setup, whether you are speaking or whether you are selling. And I've always found that the best thing I have when I'm on a panel is to probably sell less, but to be engaging and try to talk to the audience in such a way and let them know, please come back and talk to me. I'd love to continue this conversation with you. Make it feel like we've got this one-on-one thing going. Which usually we do.
Totally agree with that. You're building a client base.
Yeah. When you go to
Versus
your,
customers.
Absolutely.
when you're going to your panels, though, Brian, what are you bringing?
I generally bring maybe one or two items. Now I've got at any time I've probably got about 10 books to print. I've got I've got a couple comic books. Right now I've got about half a dozen because of the Advocator and etc. But I try to keep it down to a minimum because I think there is, and I found this through experience, there's a difference between saying, hey, I've got this and this, and if you want to see more, come to my booth, between I've got this and this and this and this, and 20 minutes later you're still doing upper arm exercises showing everybody how prolific you are. And I think, it goes back to taking a bit of the spotlight, that you have to know, okay, here's the teaser. If you want to see more, come back to my booth, which is the ultimate goal of being on the stage.
Mhm.
Or take a drink like Chuck does.
What about you, Chuck? How do you handle your presentation?
So when I'm live, I've got this bad boy here, and I have, my stuff. I'm usually not wearing my own merch. If you're tuning into me, you're already tuned into me. The same as when I'm at a booth. I don't like to wear my own shirt because I already have the branding. It's all over the table. It's everywhere. I don't feel like I have to brand myself, because the thing is, if I wear something else that I enjoy, say like an X-Men shirt or something, and someone goes, dude, that's a great shirt, you can use that to segue into it. Whereas you can't use your own merch to segue into talking about your own stuff.
Yeah.
It is, however, great for a panel to have your own stuff on, to maybe slip into your own shirt. You can go up there, they see it, and you're branded, they know you, and then you're good to go.
I will
That's a good
argue a
point.
little bit with that, Chuck. Few points that you might not realize. Walking through the show wearing your shirt every time you go to the bathroom, it attracts attention if you have a good shirt. Second, when you have more titles, and this is for me because this might work for you too, though. When you have a lot of titles, that shirt can sell a book that they might not know that you're pushing. I've had people dead stop when I've been wearing my Reaper shirt with the original Written Sins thing, and they've asked me about, well, why do you have a Reaper shirt? And I get to explain, kind of the journey of creation. And of course, now I can talk about Written Sins Comics. So I would make that argument too. And the third argument I would make about wearing your own merch is I sell these. So when someone likes them, I can make money off of it. And they're like, I like that shirt. I'm like, for $20, you can own this shirt. And for $20, you can have this sweat-driven one. Because I sweat like a pig. That's why I like tank tops. I am not a great. I'm putting cologne and underarm deodorant all day on me because these shows are horrible. Ted, we haven't really heard from you. What do you got?
Well, I think that when you're setting up, whether it's here on, this is like prime real estate, regardless if you're at a Comic-Con, a real one or a virtual one. Everything behind you is saying everything about you. So regardless if you don't have merch, which I do, but I don't usually wear. I think it's almost over. It's inundating your client base sometimes. I want them to be able to look through and kind of digest it. Sometimes it's so in your face, you can't. It's overwhelming for a lot of people. But like with this setup here, a couple of new things that we're doing or new publications. Simply, make it simple, make it minimal. I think, and then just let them digest it. I mean, that's the whole thing. But you got $1 million worth of real estate when you're on camera. So, I mean, this little, 16 by 9 or whatever is gold. So I would recommend whatever you got to do, make it look as great as it can be.
All right, guys, this is that time where before we go into overtime, I want to give everyone the opportunity to say goodbye because we don't say goodbye with the overtime. We just do a quick follow me here. So we're going to go around the room. And anyone who does have to take off because they have other stuff to do, by all means, you're free to leave. But first, say goodbye to our audience. I'm going to stay on, and if you're watching this, you probably know how to follow me. So we'll skip my stuff, and we're going to go straight for the one, the only, the Mike Watson.
Hey, what's up? You guys give me a follow at Art of Mike Watson on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Also, be sure to check out shortfusemediagroup.com. We are selling tons of great books. And if you buy the printed copy of the book, you get the digital copy for free as well. Toys, merch, T-shirts, and all kind of things on there or whatnot. I am actually going to have to bow out. I need to take care of some things around the house. And I actually just need to rest. I've been streaming nonstop for a couple weeks.
I know that feeling. Take care, brother. Thank you for being on.
See ya.
BKM.
I'll do myself. Anyway, I'm Brian K. Morris. I can be found at risingtide.pub. Also, Rising Tide Publications page on Facebook. I'm also on Twitter, Instagram, and all the other cool places that the young people congregate, although 10 feet apart.
Hello, everybody. I'm Ted Davies. You can find me on Ted Davies Artistry on Facebook, all social media, Instagram. Check out my YouTube channel. We're going to be launching Albino Zulu this week, so check it out. We'll see you soon.
All right, folks. Henri Compan again. You can find me at www.yisunshin.com, or you can watch my show on YouTube. It's free. It's called Onward with Henri. Come find me. We broadcast every Tuesday and Thursday, and we have guests coming on every week.
He has some great guests, too. I'm just saying. Anyways, what's up, guys? I'm Chuck Pino. I'm a writer, editor, and comic book reviewer. You can find my comic book reviews on Chuck's Raw Reviews on YouTube, or you can also find them on The Advocates here or on any other number of places. I have Essence House, which is an audio drama. If you look up Essence House on any of your podcasts, you can track that down. And I'm also the writer and creator of both Belial and Welcome to the Void. You can find me on Twitter at Chucky Pin and Facebook, Chuck Pineau. I love hearing him like this.
Unmute Rob.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Jax was in the background making a lot of noise, so I muted myself. And I forget I'm muted because I'm so used to just being able to talk whenever I want. It's weird to have a mute on you. I'm sure a lot of people would love it, like Chuck, apparently. But what I was saying is that this is usually the point. I really hoped you would spit. That would have been so awesome. That would have been the second person I got to spit doing these. Normally, we would tell you to come visit us at our tables, and we would have this thing, and a lot of people don't realize this, but that's why we're doing these overtime shows. A lot of people kind of congregate towards us, and they walk with us as we go back to our tables. So that's why we've been doing the overtime. So it seems that we've lost some people into the overtime, and it wound up being me, Brian, and Chuck, which is okay. We can handle all this stuff. There was 8 at a point. We couldn't get one person. I don't know. Tech stuff. Oh, Ted did come back. I think Ted just fell out by accident. So Ted's back with us. So we're down to 4. That's okay. We'll handle some questions and we'll continue. But at this point, I will say that we have done our best for an hour to avoid the elephant in the room. The reason why we're doing the panels online, and that is it's not. See, bad jokes, Brian. We talked about this literally in the last hour. We're talking about C19. C19 is here, so we're not at panels. A little bit of good news, though, for you watching live today. It's not anything that means we can stop what we're doing. Don't plan to go on a picnic this weekend. But we're hearing some good news. Some numbers are plateauing. Some numbers are even dropping. So we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, but trust me, there's still a tunnel to go through. But now it's free form, where this is basically the real part of the panel where we meet with you guys and answer your questions that we didn't get to answer during the panel. So one of the things I did want to talk about, and this was brought up by, I think it was you, Ted. You talked about tone. I am guilty of tone stuff without even meaning to. Having a very deep voice, people through things, especially being in pain a lot of the times. One of the things I learned when listening to myself was actually, because as a retail manager, it was my voice. What did they expect me to do? I went back to listen to hours and hours of me talking to try to listen to do things. And there's even a lot of people don't realize this, but anyone who's been around me, I soften my voice on purpose. My real voice, and Chuck heard it in the morning, it's a lot growlier and deeper. And it's like, people are like, you're all right? I'm like, yeah, I'm not up yet. I'm not thinking to make my voice more friendly because my natural voice is growly, and you hear it when I get angry because I stop trying to be nice and it growls. So how do you guys deal with that? Have you ever listened to your voice? Is that something? I'm just going to mute you because we're getting some feedback from you, Ted, but I'll unmute you when you're talking. Just raise your hand. Did you ever listen to yourself to kind of learn how to avoid that?
Yeah, I did. And I am one of the 99.99% of people who absolutely loathe the sound of their own voice. In my head, I tell people I sound like Minnie Mouse on helium. That should be able to hear me.
When I hear my voice, it's like I want to kick that guy's ass.
Yeah, exactly. I don't understand why he got beat up every day in high school. But you just have to work past it. And fortunately, again, thanks to theater experience, I can modulate my voice just a little bit more. But the only time I do it that I really am out of control is sometimes I laugh. Unlike Rob, who's trying to not laugh on the air, I have this peculiar laugh that comes out, and that's because the people who tune into my show are hilarious. Seriously, they crack me up, and I'm not going to sit here and go, "That was very funny. Thank you for sharing your wit with us." That's a little bit disingenuous for my taste. So I would just look natural and just crack up on the air because I'm sure somebody else is doing it too. So
if you were funny, we would. Chuck, what you have to say?
That's why I don't worry about it. I'm not funny at all, so I don't even try. So.
It's funny that you brought up the laugh because I often found myself trying to stifle my laugh early on when I was doing shows, and then people would tell me, "We love your laugh. We love hearing your voice." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So now I don't hold it back when I laugh. Like I genuinely, you got it out of me. Like it came out. So I don't force it. But I think I'm now at the point where I don't stifle it because people seem to like it. I haven't gotten any complaints, and I've had people say, "We love your laugh." So,
and Brian wasn't listening. I didn't say I try to stop it. I said I stop trying to stop it because by trying to stifle it, like Chuck said, that was the issue. This is what happens when you're looking down in the middle of a video. Stay on point, Brian. 1 point.
Why start now?
He got it. He got it. He got the water.
It's hot tea. It's even worse. If that comes out my nose, we're done.
Oh, he's gonna be tearing. The tears come out when it goes because it burns. It burns like nothing before. The worst
Red bud.
when you're sick and you're vomiting and it goes out of your nose. Oh, there's nothing worse. You smell it for weeks. On to Ted. What were you saying about tone?
What's that? I didn't hear
What
that.
were you saying about tone?
Well, we have I'm very thankful that my wife does not have a taser, because the tones that I have could be even in the best meaningful sweetness that comes from my heart. Just my cadence sometimes it could be very dangerous for me. So I think that you really have to rewind and see how you sound, because you sound like a real dick sometimes. So, you know.
Well, I just branded it. I made it okay for me to be.
I mean, I own it, but I own it, but
okay.
sometimes I want to lease it out. You know, I don't really want to own it all the time.
In all fairness, I didn't want to use dick because of all the unsolicited dick pics. Instead, I go with the asshole bumper. Brian, what were you going to say?
Nothing now.
Well, we were talking about asshole.
Even I have my limits. I'm relieved to know.
Look, Chuck got rid of his water. He's like, take this water away. I can't have it near me. This water is bad news. I'm going to make a fool of myself. But what were you going to say, Brian?
No, I don't really have a whole lot to say extra that, because my mind is now in that the unsolicited pics thing that you were talking about earlier. And I did see a question from Mr. Carl Witzman. How much is too much? Has anyone got so distracted by your booth setup that they're lost and ignore your product? That's how I get the spotlight off of me. I've been doing this for 4 years, kids. So, Rob, how do you do it? How do you distracted by your sexy self and have them focus on your work? Because I know you want to be loved for your mind and not just your body.
Well, I try my best to not be distracted. No, actually, I made mistakes early in my career. I wore tank tops. I didn't realize tank tops would be a turnoff to the clientele because, again, I sweat at these shows. I'm in Florida a lot of the time, and I'm dripping wet. I actually bring a change of clothes down to my table, and I hate it. I don't like wearing sleeves. I hate doing this now, but it's presentation. It's just like when you have a job, you dress up for your job. And originally, I have ADHD, so look behind me and how different the banners are and all that. And that's actually bothering me now that I see it, that my light's not on. So, but this is who I am as a person. I like noisy. When I was growing up, I had things all over my wall because it helps me focus with my ADHD, and it actually quiets my mind. So I would do that, but you can't do that at your table. You really can't. And to go back to the video that Mike Watson was referencing, we're going to see actually how the newer setup is. And I'll explain some things real quick. And then I want you guys to share how you do your table too, since, we're doing viewer questions. See, the top racks now are going to have signs. The signs are going to explain some stuff. So I'm going to bring you back on now, Ted. I just wanted you to.
All right, thanks.
And on the side of these plaques here will be little cards that explain what each comic is by having their elevator pitch. So this is going to quiet it down. The back of me will be a little noisy, but believe it or not, I get a lot of compliments on my backdrops. What people don't like is in front of your table. They want a clean presentation, a clear line to you. I made a drive-through at MegaCon one time because we had a side booth. We had the end of the aisle. So I made a little side area where I could sell my comics out of. I thought it was cute. It was distracting. Again, it was too much. People didn't know what to make of what I was doing. And Chuck knows this because he's taken at the kids' table. I used to set up a specific little smaller table, and it became a distraction, and people were in front of my table, and they didn't like it. They were annoyed by there being kids in front of the table. So we tried to put it off to the side on certain shows, but then kids would get distracted, and they wouldn't go with their parents, and then you have a yelling parent coming over yelling while you're trying to pitch at their kid. Get over here. I don't bring you here so you can walk away from me. I want to get my fan art. I know I said I'd be nice, but there's still going to be jokes. So, this is the thing. You got to keep it so people can reach what they want, pick it up, have it in their hand. And I board and bag a lot of stuff, but I put it out every one of these when I'm at a show. The first comic has to be something they can grab unless it's a collector comic. Like the all covers, like that beautiful Chuck Pinot Avocator cover with Belial. Oh, well, it's actually Link. Link's on the cover, but it's from the story Belial. And Link is a character. He'll pull it up now. You even see
There's one.
and there's the one from the first Avocator. Look at that. He's actually got Link in the cover. He's got the pumpkin, which is from what's his name, right?
Yeah, from Joseph Dewis's Dr. Orange.
And then you got Manny, who's a dishwasher. I don't know why he got a cover. He's a dishwasher. We all know the dishwasher doesn't get covered. And yeah, so that for me, it's actually about being a peacock, but being a peacock that makes sense, not being a peacock that got ran over, put in a blender, and thrown into your table space.
Yep.
And here goes Chuck's thing. Now Chuck's got an interesting display. Do you still bring that wooden thing around?
No.
Oh, you got rid of the wooden thing? See, I used to do high-rise racks.
You know, honestly, it was just too heavy. I loved it, and I'm going to incorporate it in my house. It'll probably be behind me at some point when we get a bigger place to show off comics and stuff for my display. But lugging it around, I mean, dude, it was heavy. It was frustrating. So now what I do is I have a lot of the kind of like the portrait stands that show off stuff, and I kind of try to create a real focal point. So you have something to look at, and then you can peel out and take everything out afterwards. So I try to have one focal point on my table that catches your eye right away.
Mm-hmm.
We need to stop looking at me now.
I get that.
Well, go ahead, Ted.
I have to say, you know, as arrogant as this is going to sound, my table is me. I mean, I put things out so that people can see what we're doing and enjoy the art and enjoy the different prints and that. But I do a lot of, you know, on time, right there, boom, drawing. So it's, you know, that's the thing. You're tap dancing. You know, you got the shoes on and you're moving, you're shuffling.
Yeah. You know what though? I will say while you're doing that other stuff, it's nice for your table to do some of that work for you. That's why I think the setup is so important, so that if you're already engaging it with someone else or you're doing something else, they can catch that and go, oh, cool. So as much as yes, I tend to draw people in, it's nice to have something else that does the work too.
Now this is an interesting question, and it's ego based. Now, if you notice there it is. I'm trying to figure out. Dyslexia is a bitch. See how I have that image of myself? And if I actually duck down, we have that image of me. That one behind me under the bat signal sits in front of my table as my table dressing, so people can look at it. Now it has a lot of words, but I use the picture of myself. Carl's asking, the most distracting thing is huge photos of an author who is sitting right there. Why do they do such things? A brand association sometimes, when you see that big banner and you see that they're an author, you suddenly know they're an author. Do I think it's egotistical? It can be. Some of them put gigantic pictures of themselves, but what are they supposed to do? Put book covers? That's more of an author thing more than a comic book writer thing. Most of us comic book writers, we use our covers, we use slogans. You can see Chuck. Chuck used his, what is he called? The Seer?
The Caretaker.
The Caretaker. He uses the Caretaker in his banner, beautiful banner. Brian, do you have a banner? I don't think you don't post a lot of pictures of you being at the event and your table set up.
No, I don't, because I have this huge banner with my face on it. And you know,
egotistical mother right here.
What it is, and you hit it, Rob, was that it is for brand, because that was actually it was probably the very first picture taken of me wearing a bow tie and a fez. And since we're, you know, pretty much centering around like from the collar up on me, even my glasses have a bit of my branding on it too. But in my case, it is not ego. In fact, at first I was hugely embarrassed by it, just because I think, you know, I should be focusing on my books. But you know, I realize that I am the product as much as anything I have on the table. And if people remember me as that guy with the fez, or the guy with the sideburns, or the guy that wears a bow tie and a fez, that's fine.
Exactly.
As long as they remember me, and that's what goes into the thinking there.
I don't know.
I love you anyway.
A big picture of me, I would curse out. Like I'd be like, "Who you looking at? Who fuck are you? Like, you look like an asshole. You look like an asshole." See, Chuck agrees. Chuck's like, "Yep, he does. He kind of does look like an asshole." No,
And it's coming from another asshole, so it's okay.
you got to put yourself out there. It's what it is. And like Brian said, you got to put a picture of something. What's he going to do? Put book covers? It's easier for us comic book guys because we can blow up art. You can't really blow up words. I've seen it done. Don't do it. It sounds clever till you see it in real life because they put like just the font of what they wrote. And I guess they will expect someone to sit there and just read it. Just imagine how awkward that is. A big banner like this, whole bunch of words, and you're standing there like this in front of the dude.
You know what? You know what it's like? It's like when people have those big paragraph tattoos on their arm.
Hey,
And it's like,
Yep.
no one's going to walk up and read the whole thing. Like, give me your arm. Oh, like,
stop doing that because that's reading material for me when I'm having sex.
well, that's why I have it upside down so I can go, oh, okay.
It's like when girls have writing on their back. I'm like, thank you.
Turn the page.
Do I usually it's do I have to see your sister to see how the story ends?
I'm glad I'm not going to be the only one in hell. It's
I
gonna be
know,
good.
right?
Yeah.
You'll have company.
I call myself a devil. I get away with it. Like people go, have you heard about Rob Anderson? You mean the underground devil? Yeah, I know him. What do you think you're gonna do? I mean, we literally had someone run away from me today and go, I can't. No, sir, I can't be on a panel with that man. He gonna hurt my feelings. And it's true. I had a long list of how to hurt his feelings. I had already made a list of how to hurt his feelings. I was prepared. So let's see. At least it wasn't a glamour shot. You know what I wanted to get? I got arrested once. I wanted to get my mug shot. I wanted to look up my mug shot and put my mug shot on the banner. And then someone had told me that I better not because I looked like a little bitch who was scared. I was like, wow. Thanks, Mom.
In my case, Carl, there is no such thing as a photograph with me that can use the word glamour. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's true. You were a cute baby. No one knows what happened, but you were a cute baby.
Yeah, 400 years ago, sure.
Yeah, the picture's in black and white, and I think it's actually like etched, so it's hard to tell.
Yeah, it was tough getting a kid to sit still for a doggerotype. You know what I'm saying?
Did they have cave paintings in Lafayette? I don't know.
I do know
People like drawn on the side of the inside of a cave.
tell everyone now that we're going through this C-19 and it's a scary time that Brian K. Morris has been doing a great job. He's been going live. He's been talking to people. I got to give him a great public speaker. And I keep telling everyone, he was around during the Spanish flu. He's been through this before. He knows what we have to do.
It was just me on Facebook.
But how is that going live now? Seriously, like joking aside, and the whole point of this is that a lot of times you do want to joke. Like we've been talking about this. Like when we do the panels, it's professional. You guys can see even the different personalities. When you're on a panel, you have to be professional. No one wants to step on anyone's toes. Everyone's fighting to get time. We're all trying to be heard. This is also our time. The worst thing you can be, and me and Chuck know this, is on a panel for 35 minutes. Me and him were literally texting each other. We were so bored. We were each other's things. It is the worst feeling. And I show up. You offer me a panel, I take it. I'm there with people. But for 35 minutes, not having anything to say. And then being introduced like, oh, and we have these two here. It was one of the worst experiences of
I forgot we texted each other, but that's right. It's so true.
The whole
and we didn't have seats.
Yeah, we
were
given,
we were told you're gonna be here, and then they sat us on the edge of the stage because they didn't have seats for us. And I'm like,
wow.
Really? Like I can go back to my booth and sell comics. I'm good.
Wow.
And they droned on about their products. This was a supposed to be a movement we're a part of. I won't call out what it is to because I'm a polite person. Comics in the classroom. So it was supposed to be,
I was gonna say, I'm not. I'll do it.
it was supposed to be about this movement to help children, and instead of doing that, they were trying to sell ways to their products to do something that the educational system has done just fine with ABC Mouse.
We didn't sell our stuff at all, and we were the only ones who actually had booths and were selling stuff there. That was the dumb thing.
Wow.
Yeah, it was horrible. It was honestly the most disrespectful. And me and Chuck are just like cool people, so we laughed at it. But you should see the air went out of the room. People got up and left. Me and Chuck talked. People were raising their hands. They wanted to talk to us. I think most of the questions became for me and you at the end, and they kept trying to chime in. And people were like, one person actually said, "No, I was talking to the comic book creators." I was like, "Oh, they said you suck."
And it was an educators panel. Like, they should have been the one that everyone wanted to talk to, but they didn't. They didn't give information.
No, they really, and it wasn't. And again, you can't take. And I stress this to anyone listening right now: if you're saying you're doing something for the better good, I say I do Indie Advocates. It would be horrible for my banner to say Indie Advocates, come over, I'll help you, and then I tell you you have to buy something for me to help you.
Right.
That is why I have different branding behind me.
That's completely unethical, and that I would lose a lot of.
And Chuck was out of town.
Patience.
I want to stress this. Chuck was out of town. He was on his dime, traveling to a new state, opportunities to make new fan base in a new area, and he was sitting on a goddamn stage. And I even told him, if you want to leave, dude, just leave. I have to sit through this because my name's attached to it. And that's why my name is not attached to it anymore. And I've started my own movement that moved on past it because I did not find that circumstance right there was the moment where I was like, this is not professional for me. And I would never treat anyone that way. Even on these online panels, I try to give everyone the same amount of time. I really do. I do my best to make sure I try to keep people in line. I don't like playing principal, but there are sometimes you start losing it and people are joking too much. Now it's fine. We're in the giggle phase. This is the giggle moment at the end of the show. It's okay. This is the after show. But like during the show, when you're doing a panel, because people, when they hear panel, it's educational. Someone's showing up to learn. The last thing they want to do is hear about your dog and the time your dog ate your homework and threw it up. They don't want to hear that. They want to hear, because a lot of these people are looking for real education value, and they really want to learn. I was that person. I was the one who went to panels, and it wasn't that I didn't appreciate them giving up my time, but I didn't need to hear about their books for 20 minutes. Yeah. I could go visit your table later. Let me ask my questions. And that's why Chuck knows this. Most of my panels start with Q&A. There's a quick intro, and right away ask a question. And I tell everyone, 2 choices. You can ask a question, or I can talk about me for an hour. Either way, I'm good. I already gave up this time. Understand, I've donated this time. In my mind, that's a write-off for taxes. You do something with this time, or I do. I'll just talk about myself for an hour. And I have. I've sat there and told about the time I went yachting. No, I never went yachting. I always try to involve people. I usually go bother people and sit next to them awkwardly with a mic. You can't give me a mic that travels. You just cannot. And in some of my panels, I actually make people come up to the stage and ask questions from the stage. I'm like, you want to be a comic book creator? You want to be on stage one day, right? And it's always the first person to ask the question. And I can tell the people who've been to my panels before because they never ask the question. And they'll be like, yeah. And I'm like, good, come up here. And it only lasts for 4 or 5 people because then it gets kind of droning when the line starts. But the first 4 or 5 people like awkwardly have to sit next to me. And I'm like, the whole time, just staring at them, just like this the whole time. Oh, man. Just to wrap. I even answer the question just looking at them like, well.
Prepare for your interrogation.
One of the things that I appreciate about all 3 of you here actually is that you guys are all positive entities in what's going on right now. None of you, out of the ones that are on this panel at this moment, are a positive light. That I think that we're on the forefront of what needs to be continued. I think that there's a lot of things that I know Brian does, Rob, Chuck. You guys are all bringing positivity to the network of people that I'm plugged in with, and I look forward to the future because I think that there's going to be a lot of people that are influenced for the better and inspired. So I want to thank all three of you for that. So
You're welcome. You're doing your own thing with your TED Talks. And look, there's going to be times where we have to take out the garbage. And Brian knows that. Indie Volt and Indie Advocates are going to be working on monitoring some bad operators and making sure that people know who they are. But ultimately, no one wants to be the person who has to point it out. No one wants to be TMZ. We don't need that. We want to build people up. Sometimes we have to take the wrong people down so people can rise. But beyond that, this is about helping people like Chuck, helping people like Brian get noticed. A lot of people always come down to me because I don't advocate for myself and I don't talk enough about for myself. And Chuck's been real mad at me sometimes during Kickstarters because I won't talk about my Kickstarters enough. But that, and I'm trying to get better with it. But and I'll be honest, I'll tell you guys something that no one's heard on this panel, and I'll just share it. And I think Chuck knows this because me and Chuck are pretty close, and we just talk to each other as humans. And the beginning of this year, I wanted to give up being an indie advocate. I was done between the bullshit with Dirk Manning and Marcel Dupree, and just people talking shit behind my back to try to make themselves rise. Like if I can't, I want to be like Rob, and no one realizes I don't make money for being like me.
Right,
I make money for what I create. The indie advocate thing, it doesn't. There's no celebrity. Other people have tried to do it and realized real quick there's really not a lot that goes with this. I was ready to hand it all in, and I was, because also I'm dealing with my son, and it was like this thing that I really loved doing felt like it was being taken from me because I had backed Marcel Dupree. I had backed, and there's another person I can't name because I promised a group I would name that. That basically took advantage of a female in our group, and I was done. The way they treated the female, and Chuck knows that story. So I was like, just wanted to burn the world down. And then this virus came across, and it was one of the best things that ever could happen because it really got me to be able to say this is bigger than everyone else. And I got to just leave it all behind. And I know Marcel kind of popped up again, and he's trying to talk about me, and I'm going to whack-a-mole his ass. Don't get me wrong. It's coming. But I feel energetic by this. And I know it's weird because of everything that we're going through right now, but being able to help so many people and not worry about anything but just helping people is like reignited my love for comics.
Sure.
I realized something today, and I'm sure you all share this feeling. And if not, it'll maybe help you guys. Everything I do is for comic books, not people. It's not about one person. It's not about one group. If one group is being bad and they're getting ahead, fuck it. I don't care. As long as I'm helping comic books grow, because that's what's ultimately more important. And I think I learned that from this experience. And we've said it. Brian said it. I know, Chuck, you said it on your page. If you don't fucking learn something right now while you're stuck at home by yourself,
then you're wasting your time.
And you wasted everything.
Yep.
The thing about advocating is that when we advocate for other people, it's almost like working with other people. You give everyone an initial chance. You know, like, yeah, okay, I'm willing to check your stuff out and work with you. And then when you find out like maybe they're unprofessional or, you know, they don't meet up to your standards or any of that kind of stuff, you have to distance yourself. So that means that at some point or another, we're always going to be attached to someone that we're maybe not proud of being attached to. Maybe, you know, you have an ex-girlfriend that you're like, yeah, I went there. That was a dark time, you know, and you know, for some of us, Marcel, Dirk, other people, those are our dark times. Those are the bad ex-girlfriends. And at the end of the day, you just have to go, you know what, man, I lived, I learned, I'm not there anymore. You know, I grew, and that's what life is all about. So everything that we do has to take that in mind, and that's what we're doing. So, you know, sadly, he was behind some people that were unscrupulous, and now he's not. And that just shows that we don't put up with shit. So don't do it.
Can I just point out I got the cool Superman curl going on? All right. So I love Chuck. I do it just to blow. Chuck has got the reactions to me. He has that look like fucking Rob.
Was that a tattoo on Brian K. Morris, by the way?
What?
Yep. Oh yeah.
Was that a tattoo, Brian?
Yep.
Yeah. Seriously, I've had this for about 15 years.
That's what he did in jail. It's a great story.
He's got a paragraph too, right down around the arm and behind, and a couple.
I've heard Brian K. Morris swear. I've seen Brian K. Morris's tattoo. Like, I feel like I'm in the inner group now. I'm just like,
You're in the inner circle now.
You got to get the secret handshake down. You're all set. Yep.
But yeah, and that's the thing. And I'll tell you, there's this a quick story before we get to Carl Witzman's question. You notice how I took over being the host. Anyway,
I can't hear Brian. Where'd Brian go? Where'd Brian go? I'm sorry. What was that, Brian?
Anyway, it's going to be that every time I reach a certain sales with any of my books, and I owe myself about 8 tattoos now. Unfortunately, I'm too busy to get one. I get another iteration of the Superman emblem, and eventually it's going to be a sleeve that will be framed by Superman's cape.
Cool.
That will be cool. I want to live stream that though. I want to see him scream.
Yeah.
And
There we go. Yep.
I'm good.
I think he can handle it.
We have to do a tattoo Comic-Con and have you do it right there.
They do it
on your table. On your table, man, right there.
And we have to ask you questions the whole time.
And we'll live stream the hell out of it. Yeah, that'll be that.
Carl Witzman has a question for us, however, gentlemen.
I love that question.
You've been on a panel and another speaker starts giving what you consider to be bad advice. How would you correct them?
Well, if I'm on this panel, I just mute Chuck and I talk over him. No. Sure, go ahead. You got
out the door. Out the door.
What?
I saw your eyes like you.
Oh yeah. Honestly, I don't think I would necessarily call them out and say you're wrong. I would say, you know what, man, I disagree with that, and here's why. And I would bring up my points so that hopefully they can see the other side. I think it's really poor taste to be like, that guy's bullshit.
Yeah,
he's
right.
wrong.
Very
It's really unprofessional.
Yeah. Very
so I think it's okay on a panel for us to disagree. And because a lot of times it is debate and not everyone does it the same way. So I think it's okay to say, man, I actually disagree. This is how I feel. You're letting people know. And I think if you speak succinctly and really get your point across, hopefully you drown out the stupidity.
You can be assertive and not insulting. And that's the thing. I think that it's a very thin line, but you can.
Yeah, I've had to do that too. And I usually start, from my experience, I have found.
How did Rob handle you telling him that he was wrong?
Well, I don't mince words with Rob. I don't have it between the eyes.
I'd have to be wrong first.
And I take as good as I give.
That's what she said.
I'm setting you up for that, Rob.
That was a freebie.
Okay, I'm going to say this. Never talk to your ex-wife before you go into a panel. Never do it, okay? This is
okay.
I talk to my ex. I go into a panel, and I'm thrown into this panel by a friend who can't make it because they're having travel problems. So I go into this room. I don't realize I'm with the person who's going to be creating the next Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon. So I'm on this panel with like absolute pros, and I probably shouldn't be there at this point in my career. And someone asked a question, and they asked me about it. And I know he's the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle creators, and I can't help but just I couldn't keep it in and say, well, I disagree. I think rebooting things like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles all the time ruins the brand. We should have just kept telling good stories instead of trying to reinvent them to try to act like we're. No offense, but I just honestly, I just think it's the wrong way. I think that if you want to create a compelling story, just do it. If you have to change something, you're cheating. Again, no offense.
How do they handle that?
Talk to Rob's wife before you get here.
This was years ago. This is when I first started, and I was I was a little. Believe it or not, this is polished. All right, you guys should have seen the rough.
Wow,
I've learned some stuff.
So you can polish a turd. I see. Okay.
Yeah. Right. And now that you don't have toilet paper, what else are you going to do with the turds?
Yeah, right?
Shine them up. Shine them up.
Use them as building materials. Make your hut.
Turd hut.
Turd.
Big turd hut.
Just
turd
the same
hut.
as Pizza Hut. This program has been brought to you by Pizza Hut.
And Taco Bell.
Don't make fun of Taco Bell, okay?
Oh,
yeah.
Actually, isn't it tomorrow they're giving away free Doritos Locos Tacos?
Yeah. And Demolition Man said they're the only winner of the upcoming apocalypse. And so far, Demolition Man has been right about everything. So I'm starting to think we might need to start investing in Taco Bell. I love that. I never thought it would happen, and now people aren't touching it. I'm like, oh shit, they knew. The Simpsons creator wrote Demolition Man. It's eerie how much the Simpsons got right. I'll just say that. That's freaky. I'm now watching Simpsons as a history thing, writing out my future things to look for. Glad to hear, Chuck, is Carl. I don't know why I can't show comments anymore. Sorry, Carl. Apparently we lost.
Bye, Brian.
Apparently Carl's question kicked out Brian K. Morris.
I was going to say, we just rebooted?
All right. Something changed in the Matrix. Glad to hear that, Chuck. That's how I handled it. There's a dirty joke to be put there, though. I don't know Carl well enough, but I know Chuck well enough that could have been a dirty comment.
And I know Carl, so this works out. Okay, advising using a vanity press. I want to know who that was now, Carl. You can DM me.
Huh. Interesting.
That's
interesting.
Math wasn't my strong suit. I'll tell the guy in the Fez.
I hate when people use celebrity stuff. I'm not a fan of fan art. I'm on a truce.
Yeah.
I'm on a truce. I won't talk about fan art and how illegal it is and how it's bad. And you're going to go to hell. You're going to go to hell making fan art. I'm not going to talk about that today.
He's not going to talk about that.
Yeah,
See, that's original art. Just in case you were curious, that's what original art looks like. But we will talk about.
Rob, you didn't trace that, did you? No,
I traced a little bit of it. That's me photoshopping and then tracing it because tracing's okay. Because Neil Adams said it's okay. So
much, damn it.
So, as I was saying, I think when you use celebrities who don't pay for their endorsements, you're just an asshole, and not an asshole like me. Actually, we'll go with Brian's thing, a dick. You're a dick, not a big one, a micro one.
That's right.
Chuck.
You're right,
You had
Chuck?
me a micro dick.
Okay.
I want to see like a strap on with a micro dick and be like, "What the hell are you doing?" Like
We just jump the shark.
right now, I have a letter from YouTube. God, how do we even address you?
Letter if you're lucky.
Where do we even start with the shit that you say, man? What's with the voices too? Are you making fun of people? No.
Yeah.
It's not anyone I knew in my life that I'm now mocking. A former weatherman in our area speaking at a local comic book fair. Well, that's right. When it's a weatherman, you know they're going to be wrong at least 50% of the time.
That's true. That narrows it down. Thank you, Carl.
Yeah, that's a job I missed out on. A job where I could be wrong any fucking time and blame God. Hey, fuck God. Hey, you wanted rain. Big guy said rain. Fuck you all.
It's funny you mentioned that because Carl mentioned the weather. We had a former weatherman in the market that he's talking about. This was a long, long time ago. He had predicted partly cloudy, and we got half a foot of snow overnight.
God.
And the weatherman was always taking the weatherman to task and said, "Well, I just shoveled 6 inches of partly cloudy out of my driveway."
So, Chuck, what are you writing?
I'm going back and forth with a couple of things. I have a lot of people that I have to still deal with as far as like editorial and whatnot.
God.
So even while we're talking, they'll be like, "Hey, how does this look? What's going on with this? Blah blah blah." So I kind of correspond that way.
Now, let me ask you guys, since no one has to go right now, right? Because we're at 90 minutes. Since the conversation's going, I'm going to throw something out here, and this is like kidding around aside for those still watching. So I'm surprised anyone's still watching, but thank you, seriously, for enduring this. I heard that they're going to use this in the CIA to break people from now on in creation. So what do you guys, when you're putting out something publicly, how do you watch speaking publicly. Me, I find that using a lot of typos helps a lot. So I just keep not spell checking my stuff because my Grammarly doesn't work. I think it's fine. And I hit send, and people are like, there's a mistake. I'm like, Grammarly would never do that to me. This show brought to you by Grammarly. So how do you guys deal with literally sending out like, hey, this is something I want to talk about. This is a message. Like last night, I had put that I do everything I do for the love of comics, and I found 2 mistakes. My friends all told me about my mistakes, and I love them for it because they're very kind to me. But it was a powerful message, and I try to say things that I think are powerful. I'm sure it doesn't always work out that way. Like I shared something from Brian K. Morris's thing, and I got roasted over it. And I was like, I went back and I was like, how come Brian doesn't get the bullshit I get? And I saw him getting the bullshit, and I was like, okay, I feel better now. The thing about the survivors.
Yeah. Well, everyone was giving me hell about that until I fired back.
Yeah, like I mean,
Yep.
You can't talk about people surviving C-19. Don't you know that it's a 50% mortality rate? And I was like, what?
Well, actually,
that's
yeah.
why
I mean,
conversation.
I have to take the survivors and divide it by the people who died. And I'm like, but wait, that's not. We're not testing all the survivors. Some people are literally just sent home for 14 days and told to fuck off. You're not sick enough. Fuck you. Get out of here.
Yeah.
If you're not rich, you're not being tested. Let me tell you, the poor people are being taken out in
that's it.
in poor areas on gurneys, and they're dead, and they're not being reported. That's the truth. And I, and it's not something we're talking about in polite society. But when you're poor, you're left to die. You know, Boris, what's his name? The UK Prime Minister.
Boris Johnson.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's in an ICU right now. When there are people in America who can't even get a free test. In Florida, they won't test me.
Right.
And I think I had it, and I would love to give my blood to see if I had an antigen. And if I had an antigen, I would actually donate blood right now.
Sure.
I had it in my system, and I don't like donating blood. I hate donating blood, and I have tattoos all over my body. I just see blood, and I want to punch someone. It's like a what is it? Viral response when you just see something. I get violent when I see my own blood. I can't explain it. It makes me panic. It's like fight or flight, and all I want to do is either run or hit something.
What you're saying though, Rob, earlier, I think we need to curate. I don't mean this but I think when I post things, I need to curate. I almost have to go back. I know I posted things and then I've actually pulled them off again because sometimes it's not worth the battle. I know how I feel. I know who I am, but it's not necessarily worth me taking the energy for the rebuttal. I just don't deal with it. So I curate accordingly. My brother said, hey, don't post anything politically on your art page. I don't anyway. I'm like, duh. I mean, why would I do that? But I'm just saying that there's certain things that I think we need to curate. And that includes people. If I don't agree with somebody and they get kind of shitty, guess what? Go to another artist. I'll see you later. Don't read my stuff. Don't buy my art. It's fine. No problem. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of what I, had to do on the page with the thing that Robert was mentioning. And
I remember it.
I was about to delete the comments till I realized more people were agreeing and loving what I was saying. And I pointed out that, that like 90% of the people who were pushing back at me never replied to me, never would follow my stuff, supported me, never bought a comic or a book,
right.
In my shows, but they see this one thing and then they come on just to tell me how stupid I am. Mm-hmm. And I shot back.
Yep.
And I remember who they are.
You know what we need to do? We need to invent an email Benadryl. An email Benadryl. That's what we need. Send it back to them. I
just speak honestly, and whoever has a problem with it, I kick off. And I used to believe, everyone has the freedom of speech, and I still do for those watching this. Go, well, if you kick someone out, isn't that freedom of speech? I'm like, no, listen, I believe in freedom of speech. When there's a guy outside screaming his head off that the world is going to fucking end, and it's all coming to an end, and he's wearing his hazmat suit, and he's telling me that C-19 is going to kill everyone, I agree with his ability to be out there and be stupid. I also want the ability to go inside and close my fucking door and not invite him in my house. That's what you're not understanding. I don't want people following me who are going to be troublemakers, because they're the same son of bitches who go reporting my book about fetish. Or when I say something that they don't agree with, they try to report me. So you know what? Good. Stick your head up so I can whack-a-mole your ass out of here. Next, please. You know, and I'm not eager to have friends. I've talked to Chuck. I'm like, how the hell did I get 4,500 friends? What the fuck are people not watching what I'm saying? That should be exactly. Nobody's right. It's right. It's like these people keep like asking you to be on their pages. And I've had people I was friends with for like 4 years, and they'll make a comment, and they'll like go fuck yourself, and then I'll be like block, and then I don't block. I don't block a person right away, but I'll kick them off, and they'll be like, "How come you did that?" I'm like, "Because you don't talk to me that way."
Yeah.
I was like, I don't think you understand that. If you knew me as a real person, there's one thing to razz me or try to fuck around with me, and like, I don't care. Chuck said dirty things to me that made me blush. But when you're publicly gonna say, fuck you, like you're a big shot, there's just something that snaps in my brain, man, and it's right back to that caveman shit where I want to smash everything. And instead of doing that, I tell my brain, if we remove this person, we never deal with this again. Mm-hmm. And that's what I do.
And that's why I curate. I do the same thing. So
I want to help everyone, but I don't want to help every asshole survive. I want to help comics, and I think that, and there are people, I won't say who, but there are certain people in this industry I hate. I absolutely hate them. I hate everything they say. I hate their political posts, but I have to respect what they do. No, I hate him for being a scumbag human being. I hate him for what he did. You're talking about Dirk Manning. I hate him for what he did to women, and I'm not afraid to say it. But, what I'm talking about is, the person I'm talking about. He does a Kickstarter that Travis was on. And I don't like his attitude towards other creators. He comes off very smug, but he's talented. And I publicly will not bash him. I won't mention his name on this show because I do think he has skills. I think we're just conflicting personalities, and that happens in life. We're oil and vinegar. I don't think he's a bad human being. If you're a bad human being, though, I don't want you on my fucking page. I think that's the difference. Like Chuck, I don't know how he deals with the nonsense he deals with some days on his page. Like, he's so calm about it. I would be burning shit down. He talked about fan art, and he's like, "Oh, I respect your opinion." And this person was like, basically, like, "You're just a stupid writer who doesn't like getting paid. If you fan art, you would do it." I'm just quoting what was on the page. It's not me attacking fan art. This is where I saw the most drama, and Chuck just smilingly was like, Dude,
Chuck is like the sage of comics. We're just going to call you the sage.
I'm kind of in that regard, but also my mantra is, you have the right to be wrong, and that's what I go with. And I say it all the time. So they're like, "Oh, you're a fucking moron," blah blah blah. That's all right. You have the right to be wrong,
and I'm like,
and there's no real way to get out of that. And honestly, at the end of the day, if someone's gonna believe that shit, I don't want them to like me I don't want them around me anyway. So believe it, and both of you fuck off. But if I feel like if I drop myself to their level, I'm letting them win a little bit. And you know what? Fuck them. I won't let you win at all. I won't let you. I'm gonna work my ass off. Now they might get under my skin, and I might, turn to my wife, who is also in the comic industry and who. We see a lot of the same stuff. I'll be like, "Did you see this motherfucker? Did you see the bullshit he said? Are you fucking kidding?" And but it doesn't go out there to everybody else because you know what? It doesn't need to go out there. Like it doesn't need to happen. I'm not gonna let you win. If you want to beat me, you better be good. And that's just where that's how I play it.
Not me.
We all have our own list.
I have a list when I travel. Who could be in what state? And I walk the show floor with my list, see Andy's mouth, and let me tell you, some guy was in his mouth, and he showed up at a show, and I've been told that I might be a bigger than the average bear. So I remember walking over, and this guy said he saw me, he kicked my ass, and this was a show I was okay with getting thrown out of because it was far from home. And I was like, last day I walked over to his table in the morning, and I'm like, "Hey, I thought you were gonna come kick my ass on day one. Here I am." And he was like, "Who are you?" I'm like, "Rob Anderson." And it's great to have your name known where no one has to take a second.
All the blood went out of his head.
He was like, "Oh," and I was like, "Come kick my ass." And my friend is like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I was like, "No, man, he said he was going to kick my ass and he's going to do it." And mind you, this is a show I wasn't with Jack, so I could misbehave a little. And it was not a good show, so that did not help anything. So I wasn't with my son, and it was a bad show. So I'm like, "Come kick my ass." And my friend's like, "Come on, Rob. I know the people who run this." I was like, "I'm just here so he can kick my ass." He said I needed a good ass kicking. I want to see if I'm smarter after this ass kicking because he said I'd be smarter. I want to be smarter. friend is like, I am never inviting you to be near me again. I'm not going out.
Hulk wants to be smart.
Yeah, oh, kick some sense into me. Come on, it's stupid in here.
Oh my god.
But don't do that, kid. Seriously, that was not a good idea. Don't do what Rob does. Do what Rob says, because trust me, I don't do smart things a lot of times. But it was again earlier in my career, much earlier in my career, and before I realized that it's not worth it. Honestly, it's never worth doing that stuff. But it's a funny story to tell.
It's a good story. It's a good story.
And he packed up early and left. I don't know why. Middle of the day, I was told he was suddenly gone.
Price
See ya.
packing out the moment you turned your back on him.
So the story was like he took off. Like the person next to him actually thanked me. He's like, I got to use this other table the whole day. I'm sure he's still in his basement. Like, that guy's gonna come for me. I don't remember his name. That's how messed up it is. I was that mad and I don't remember his name anymore. But if I saw him, no, I'm just kidding.
That's why I'm
So
going to people now on that. And I remember their name.
Are you guys all on stay-at-home orders?
Yeah.
Florida,
No.
Texas? I know Indiana. No, you're not.
You're not staying home yet?
Not to Texas. Okay, so someone tried to tell us we are, but no, Texas, we suggest you stay home. And so it's really lame because I know, like it's Texas. One of the best things and worst things about Texas is that it's filled with Texans, and they're all very strong-minded, and they all, I have my freedoms, and so he doesn't want to tread on their freedoms, so to speak. So it's like, I suggest you stay home. That's a very good idea to stay home. And it's like, but if you forced us, all these morons who have moved into my little tourist town now and are spreading their filth and crap here, it wouldn't be happening. So, it's stressed that we do it. But, I mean, I can still...
There's a tourist town in Texas?
There's a lot. Dude, tourism's huge here.
I didn't, honestly, like, this is...
Yeah, it's huge. Absolutely.
Texas.
Austin, Corpus Christi.
We grew up in New York. You're talking about
San Antonio. We
And I'm
go
right
there
in
all the
between
time.
Austin and San Antonio. So we live on a little lake. It's called Canyon Lake, and people come here and especially people from Houston and Dallas and stuff, very infected areas. They come here, and so the issue has been like a week ago, I decided to take my kids out for a drive. I thought we'll go for a drive. We'll put the windows down. We'll get some air. Everything will be great. And I knew that the two that I took with me were having a really hard time being stuck inside. So we went for a drive. And I thought, let's take a look at the lake. Let's drive by some of the boat ramps. Every fucking single one was filled. How are you social distancing when there's a group, like each boat has a group of people on it, and there's like 20 to 30 boats lined up there? Like, how is that distancing at all? And people are getting together on these pontoon boats. It's stupid. So I just very, very annoyed about how it's being handled down here. I'd just rather we took it seriously for 2 or 3 weeks, got over it, and then moved the hell on.
Moved on. Yep, I
It's
agree
funny.
with you.
Your state declared an executive order about public health disaster declaration to get funding, but they're not close. And I'm from Florida. Our idiot governor only sent us into this, on Friday?
Yeah.
So, like, we waited forever while we were getting – our numbers were great. I honestly think, and to this date, I still feel the same way, that the heat is killing this son of a bitch. I think that's why we're starting to hear some good news. And I think we're starting to hear, and I think, like Chuck said, the sick people keep moving, spreading it. If they had just stayed where the fuck they were, we would have never seen the spreading. I think his area would have never seen it because I think it was going through tourism. Aren't in Florida. We saw it down in Miami. We barely saw it spreading until the damn snowbirds came running back down. And when they brought it with them, they started getting community sick. And where there was 0 month ago, now they're suddenly starting to pop up clusters until they started quarantining. When they started quarantining everyone coming in, the numbers are starting to go down again, even with testing being ramped up. So there might be something to this heat thing. I think Chuck's absolutely right. Stop trying to, and this is where I agree with Brian, stop trying to make people so afraid they're running away.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. You have to be educated about it, just not inundated. And that's I'm with you. I just wish that there was a little bit more sensibility. Staying, it really, we're not working anyway. You know what I mean? We're working at home anyway. We're trying to do the best we can. My wife's an essential worker, and it's hard for her because, you know, we can't even get to the grocery store now. I mean, Walmart's sectioned off. They've got us down to like, I forget, 200 people at a time or whatever it is, 100 people at a time to get in there. You can't even walk in without getting counted. And so it's just going to be, and then we're in pretty much a small town up north. So it's going to be up North Michigan. So it's, just sit tight for a little bit longer and let's get through this. You know, I'm with you. I'm with you.
I think part of the problem though is that people threw around the word apocalypse too early as this kind of joke thing, but it also wasn't a joke. It was like a semi-joke. And so when you think on that, most people's apocalypse plan is get the fuck out of the city, you know, go somewhere else.
Right.
So that's what so many of them did. Whereas this is not an apocalyptic event.
No.
It was not, you know, it didn't have to be even as bad as it is. We just needed to think smart and take it seriously. And the issue is that there's kind of three levels that I like to think of. It's the panicked, the normies, and then like the woke, so to speak. And so the panicked people did a bunch of stupid stuff.
Right.
And then when the normies started to see all this panic happening, they're like, oh, does that mean all of us normal people are panicking? And it's like, no, those are the fucking morons who were going to do that anyways. And that's why we started losing so much.
Right.
And having such a hard time buying stuff and whatnot is because not only were the panicked people doing it, but the normal people were responding to that.
Right.
So like my wife and I, when we go shopping, it's for like a 2 or 3 week period.
Right.
And we just kind of tried to keep going like that. So, you know, why did you get 2 things of toilet paper? Well, that's because we have a family of 5. We're doing this for a 2 or 3 week period. So, you know, and it's done well. You just got to be smart about it. And the problem is, smarts is not it's not easy to get right now.
Well, that's the thing. Frank Zappa used to always say the 2 most common elements in the universe are hydrogen and stupidity.
Yeah.
And
no doubt.
I think you made some good points. I remember hearing from the government on the very cusp of this announcement. People were saying you got to have a 3-month supply of stuff.
Right. Well,
and that's when we had all the panic buying. I can remember back when I think I was still in high school in the early 70s. Johnny Carson on the Tonight Show made an offhanded remark about a possible paper shortage, and so he said, "Y'all better stock up on toilet paper now." And he just meant it as a joke. The next day, people ran out and started buying toilet paper like we're seeing right now, thus creating a shortage. So
we had a similar issue about, I don't know if it affected outside of Texas, but we had an issue about, I want to say 3 or 4 years ago with gas, where did you guys get this at all? So in Texas, we had an issue where we had sort of like a gas shortage, but it was just that for a short period of time, they were having a hard time bringing it in. But it was literally like it would have lasted less than a week. Like it was just like, oh, this week we can't deliver near as much, so they went through it quicker. As soon as people heard about that, everyone went out and started buying. People were filling up huge tankers and stuff like that. And so for about 3 or 4 weeks, we were under a serious gas shortage because so many people panic bought all the gas.
Yeah. We had something like that on 9/11, actually, in Champaign, Illinois. There were a couple of gas stations that were spreading the word that all of the fuel was going to be allocated to the military. And so I remember at the time, the price of gas was something like, call it around $1 a gallon. Then that night it went well over $5.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. And then you had people seeing this and hearing rumors. So there, you have like lines up
Panic.
on the street trying to get into these, mostly these $5 gas places. All the
Right.
rest of us who are going around town getting our dollar gas, we're fine. But but the thing is, now there are people still in Champaign that remember that day, and sort of thing that can come and bite you in the butt later on. If you try to be greedy about it.
Sure.
It all comes down to this, and it's just the truth. We're in a time period where we've had the boy who cried wolf way too much. We no longer listen to any news source. We no longer listen to any government official. We always think they're trying to do something to push some agenda. So right away, we're skeptical. And then we see the stupid people who react to everything like Chicken Little starting to buy our stuff. And there's a competitive human nature that comes in for us. It's not that we're worried. It's only worried that we think these idiots are going to steal all of what we need. So then we go out as a competitive group and take what we demand for ourselves, because we stop thinking about community and we start thinking about, well, me and mine. And that goes in with the Chicken Littles, and it makes a mess. And then anyone who's not in those two groups suddenly goes, well, fuck it. I'm going to need to shit and wipe my ass. I guess I should go to Walmart at 8 in the morning so I can get toilet paper so I can make it out of there. Even level-headed as fuck, these idiots are going to cause me problems. And they always look at both sides as idiots. Because the ones I've seen people literally going on their Facebook going, this is going to be the end. This is how the apocalypse starts. Yeah. It's like, stop your fear-mongering. And you see the other person, oh, I'm not going to take this serious because I heard on a YouTube video that this isn't even real and the government's just trying to keep us down. No, they're real people fucking dying. Shut the fuck up.
Yep.
A YouTube video caught no one at a line protesting, huh? Do you know that twice a day they open and fucking close? So that means 2 times a day there's no one fucking there. Right before they start opening, there's no one there. And after they're done for a day, you could show up. And then someone's like, look at the hospital parking lot. And if you look at the parking lot, there's visitor parking. What is the hospital saying right now? No fucking visitors. What are you trying to prove? That you're stupid. But you have all these people watching this video, and now it's become a thing. They're going to get together with the flat earthers and hopefully walk the fuck off the earth so we can all be smarter for the future. If you think this is a government conspiracy and there's no real virus, please. They were wrong about the Tide Pods. They taste wonderful. This is the time to enjoy and ingest. If you think the earth is flat, listen, start just walking. Walk. You prove them right. You prove all to the world. If you see a cliff, that's not a cliff. That's the portal. That's the portal to the good universe with the unicorns. That's what Atlantis is. Keep walking.
All the toilet paper is kept there.
Right?
Yeah, I would think virus would only affect people below a certain IQ.
No, did you see Costco was like, we're not taking back your toilet paper? And people were losing their mind, and I thought it was hysterical. That's not your policy. You're supposed to take things back, not from idiots. We reserve the right to not take back from idiots. Because in all honesty, they can't necessarily take it back right now because they don't know if it has a virus. And when it's done, you are one of the people who made it panic to the point where we're having trouble producing enough toilet paper right now. America is having trouble producing enough toilet paper. We have never had this problem before, except for during hurricanes, and you could bust it in. This is all of America. Just imagine how many people are in literal thrones of fucking toilet paper sitting in their living room watching this all go down now. I'm looking at you, Chuck. I'm looking at you.
I'd like to address all the people that Rob has just insulted by talking about your diminished IQs. And I want to remind you that Santastein will give you a full 3 months worth of toilet paper available on Amazon. And if you buy Volcana, Rebirth of the Champion, right now, you are covered for probably at least half a year. So go to Amazon right now, www.amazon.com/author/Brian K. Morris.
I've got some. I got some tracing paper. I got some tracing paper I was going to use for some fan art, but I think I'm going to use it for toilet paper instead. So
listen. I'll be honest. If I've offended anyone, if there's anyone who's been offended, I do want to tell you guys where you can air your grievance. So you're going to be able to go and send all the hate to my personal site, Rising Tide. You just send the information to the Rising Tide Network, and someone there will take care of it. because I used to take care of the hate mail the way that everyone does. I threw it the fuck out, or I giggled about it with my friends. Like, if you're sending me hate mail, I'm not going to take you serious. Death threats just turn me on. I don't know why, but they do. And then when I respond to you about all these wonderful things you want to do to me, you call me the weirdo. What the hell? You
Well,
started.
listen, with all this talk about toilet paper, I'm going to go find some. So I am going to go talk to you guys later. Chuck,
All right.
awesome seeing you, sir. See you later.
Always
Sage.
good seeing you, buddy.
The Fez man, the one and only Brian, and Rob,
Thank you,
the
Ted.
Anderson Sin Man.
Yourself,
So
brother.
see you guys later.
See you
Have
later.
a good evening.
I
Take
hope
care.
you're happy, Brian. You annoyed the shit out of him. He had to go take a shit now. I like that Chuck's just showing his dog off. Chuck's just on video showing his puppy. Don't send hate mail to me. I'm a dog owner. I'm the indie darling. The things he's
That's the dog I keep in my purse.
we'll end this program and he will say some hateful shit. I'm telling you. And it's always about me. The hateful shit's always about me. It's always critique. It's like, why would you be on camera so long? Did you want to break monitors throughout the United States? Oh, wait, not many people are watching. Don't worry. You probably broke 2 people because that's how many people watch you. I get so many.
You do the Lord's work, Chuck.
I try. Patient as fuck. That's what I am.
No, but I mean, people have really made this a fucking horrible thing. I mean, you're idiots. You're all idiots. We could have all gotten through this really fucking simply.
All of you. Every single, especially you.
Yeah.
You.
The one who's like watching right now who thinks that, oh, he must not be talking about me when I went out the other day. Yes, fucking you. Fuck. Yes. Right in the ass. Right in the ass.
Especially you.
You were saying you needed to just get essentials. Fucking Dunkin' Donuts is not essential. All right? It's fucking donuts.
Fuck you. Okay, you're wrong.
I hit a chord with Chuck. That is essential.
You did.
Yes. Hey, did the government
Donuts. If there was a Tim Hortons here, I'd be there right now.
Did the government say Dunkin' Donuts was essential? Yes, they did, bitch. Don't be trying to take my donuts.
There was a lot of things that they said was essential, and I was very unhappy with it.
Yeah, same here. It's like, why are you still open? And yet my comic shop is wondering when they're going to open their doors ever again. Yeah, that sort of thing.
You know the one company that got me the most, because in this we have a choice. We can see the best in people or the worst in people, and it depends on what they show.
Yeah,
and it's the same with companies. Some of those showed a good side, and some of those showed a bad side.
Right.
My bad side, the one company that got me, and I'm like, cool, I think we're done now, and I loved GameStop.
Yeah, I haven't followed up on it. What did they do? I know that people were pissed off about that, but
GameStop, despite the fact that video games can be picked up digitally,
right,
and all that kind of stuff, they called themselves an essential service.
Uh-huh.
And then when people bitched about it, and of course the employees said, like, God, we are not it's like, I'm glad to have a job, but we're not an essential service.
Right.
They said, okay, here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna walk up to the door with a bag in your hand. You're gonna put the bag over your hand like it's dog shit. Grab their credit card, go get their purchase, swipe it and everything, and then bring the credit card back with their purchases inside of it. That way you don't have to touch them. And I'm like, really? Like, you had to work that out? I think it was Pennsylvania that got really pissed off by them saying we're an essential business. And Pennsylvania said, not only are you not an essential business, but you're not legally allowed to be a business here anymore, and tore up their business license.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know why Chuck
I
hates
get it,
capitalism.
I really do.
I don't know why Chuck hates capitalism. And let's be all honest. GameStop's about to be traded into another corporation, and they're going to get pennies on the dollar. Pennies on the dollar when they get traded in. I mean, this kills GameStop. Kidding around aside, they're a shithead company for what they did. And they're dead. Yeah. That's it. They're not coming back. They are not going to survive this, because it wasn't just Pennsylvania, a lot of other states. Because the CEO sent a letter, and it didn't expect an employee to publish this letter, And it's amazing how stupid the CEO is because it was on the internet within 10 minutes of the letter being sent out.
Yeah.
And like, we are one of the most essential businesses right now, and we have to stay open. And like government officials were like, "Oh, honey, honey."
Yeah, not at all.
COVID-19.
A couple states have revoked their actual permission to actually even operate on the internet. Technically, you can tell people they can't sell in your state, even on the internet. And I was like, wow. I was like,
They get kicked off of Amazon forever. It's like, how mad do they have to be that you can't even buy from them anymore? They've
yeah, right.
rounded them off.
No more for you.
No more video games for you.
So how are you guys doing? Today's day 25, believe it or not. I know because I've been counting since this all began and we cut off Europe. And the minute we cut off Europe, you knew it was going to get serious, and it has drastically. I watched something from 25 days ago where we were talking about the presidential campaign. You don't even hear. I mean, you have some people trying to make this political, but I'll be honest, most of my friends don't try to make it political right now. And they're just trying to be dealing with it. There are a couple outliers. But how are you guys emotionally doing? So this is a lot. Even for us who are used to being inside, this is a lot. Are you guys doing okay so far? Is everything in your area still copacetic, as they say?
Yeah. I'd say in my area, we're actually doing pretty well. I'm doing much better. I kind of melted down at the start of it, but the thing is, I've gotten to spend about 3+ weeks with my wife all day long, and that's kind of been cool. Really, I've gotten some work done, and I'm holed up in my room anyway half the day. This is, it's just like I'm in overtime now. So. Yeah, I'm keeping a better eye on my health and everything, mental and physical, right now, because I'm committed to doing the broadcasting too. But yeah, I'm in a good place right now. I keep monitoring the news. I'm ignoring the politicians. I'm very fair in my politics. I hate every one of them now, and that's the only way to be fair about it. And just listening to the scientists. I just keep reminding myself, what would happen if they had listened to Joe Edwards?
And it's interesting.
I'm taking real life experience on a basis. So I'm in a good place. How about you, Chuck?
Honestly, it's a day by day thing. My wife has to be out there 6 days a week. She works in grocery, so she's not handling that well, which means I'm not handling that well.
I get it.
She has a lot of scary stories. There was a woman that I both love and hate this story, but this just goes to show you the idiots that are out there. A woman walks in and she has the mask on. Fantastic. Great.
Yeah.
So she goes in, she does all of her shopping. She's being very smart and intelligent. She's keeping her 6 feet, all that kind of stuff. And Wendy is taking care of her. She's, doing the cash and everything. And all of a sudden, she pulls off her mask and coughs twice and puts it back on. And everyone in line's like, what the fuck are you doing? And at the end of the day, she has the mask on to protect her from you, but she doesn't have to protect you from her. And it's just that kind of fucking selfish attitude that really worries me with my wife being out there. And then, just all of this stuff. I'm not like fear mongering, but I'm also a very social dude who's stuck inside. I can't go out, and this is nice, but it's not like the real thing. I can't tell you how bad I just want to fucking hug somebody and be like, dude, it's so good to be around someone. You know what I mean? And
I do.
It's tough. It's tough. So yeah, I'll be honest, I have good days and bad days.
Mm-hmm. I can see that. Yeah, and having shows being canceled left and right isn't doing a whole lot for me either. But I understand. In fact, when this first started, I was like, well, why are they canceling that? Why are they canceling that? That's not fair. And I realized, no, it is fair. Everyone's getting screwed equally. And now I'm to the point where I'm looking at shows like up to the 1st of May where I'm going, why haven't you canceled yet? Sort of thing. So yeah, I completely understand it. I mean, I'm not up 24 hours a day either. I mean, I'm like you. I have my plateaus, I have my valleys, but for the most part, on the average, I'm doing okay.
I'll be honest with you both. I barely feel it because I'm so busy. I feel busier now, and especially with the health issues I've been having and the bad back and the pain I've been in. I don't have time to really address it. My sister, like Chuck's wife, is out there, and she's telling me how stupid people are acting, but we've kind of insulated ourselves, me and Jax. I mean, we're dealing with stupid things like stupid ants right now trying to come in because they're bulldozing next door. So all the ants that were in a free lot have decided to come attack my house. And it's don't get me wrong, this has been trying, like Chuck said, just going out and having a sit down at a restaurant. I made a live video yesterday because I was outside of McDonald's, and it was exciting because we hadn't been out to do something like that in over a week. And my son was all excited, and I had to open up my trunk, let a person drop food in the trunk. I can't wait for this to be over. And everyone's like, oh, I don't think we'll ever go back to normal. We'll be back to normal in weeks, if not months. You're going to tell me Black Friday's not going to happen? Come on. People will stop everything. The only thing I could see change is two things. Sick time at work. I think companies might start taking that a lot more serious because as an employee, and Chuck knows this because his wife's in retail, they don't let you go off sick. When you're sick, you're expected to show up. I expect that might change. And the second thing I can see changing is handshakes. We might permanently get rid of a handshake. And I'm okay with that. I don't need to shake a human being. Fist bumps are perfectly fine for me. I still think the elbow thing was hysterical. Okay.
I love the elbow.
No. Think about what they told you. Sneeze into your elbow, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then
time with the fucker die.
Oh, here you go, cooties. There you go. Cooties on ya. Like, what the fuck is... And we wonder why it spreads so fast. Don't worry, man.
You know what's funny, though? As a chef, I did the elbow bump all the time. People would want to shake my hand. I'm like, I can't do that, man. Like, I got chicken on me or I got whatever. So So I've been doing the elbow bump since way before it was cool.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and you know all about washing your hands, too. So.
I do know that, too, yeah.
How amazing.
So I also don't want to touch their dirty selves because,
How amazing is it, though? Obama, 4 years ago, stopped the the bird flu, right?
Right.
The bird flu by telling people to wash their hands.
Yeah.
Less than 3 years later, we had to remind America to wash their fucking hands. And I'm sure right now with these numbers going down, it's just that people finally started washing their hands. And the medical professionals are like, what are they doing differently? Not realizing they just wash their hands. And all fairness, maybe soap just wound up back at Walmart and it's been out of stock because one guy bought a fucking cart full and we haven't been able to wash our hands after we've shit in our hand to get rid of all the poop.
Why are you shitting in your hand, dude?
Because why flush? I might as well save the money now if it's going to be all over my hands anyway. Throw it in the trash. Let the guy come pick it up.
Somebody get this guy a bidet, please.
It keeps the raccoons away when I shit in my trash. Don't you know that?
Well, Rob, you've killed any hope of me ever visiting your house now. Or shaking your hand, for that matter.
No one's ever going to shake my hand again. The plan.
I'm going to do the elbow for now on, and I'll sneeze into it.
The way I'll do the elbow thing.
But I got to go. I got to make dinner, guys.
All right. That's probably a good time to end. Thank you all for hanging out with us.
Yeah. Much love, everybody.
Man. Take care, both of you.
Later. That's it for today. We'll see you tomorrow, 4 p.m.